Hi there. My name is Jeff Graff, and I'm an advisor with Argy Investment Services. I am the advisor on your new Mather Metals 401k plan, and we are partnering with the HR team to come up with a three-part series around financial wellness. The first part that we're going to speak to today is easing the pressure of debt. So we're going to go outside of the 401k plan and talk a little bit about how to create a budget, how to manage and maintain that budget, as well as how to control some of the debt that we have that we're faced with today. There's no question the last several months have been challenging for us with the coronavirus, between being laid off, furloughed, as well as having other types of financial pressures. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Hopefully this will be able to be rewarding for you, something you can take home and implement. We're all trying to get back to the new normal, whatever that will be. Hopefully this will help you in that process. So before we get started with talking a little bit about the series today, I want to talk a little bit about the 401k plan highlights so that everyone's aware of where they are within the plan. So as far as eligibility goes, you are automatically enrolled after 1 month of service, and the entry dates are quarterly. So if, for example, you were hired in the month of May, which is what we're in today, you would actually be enrolled in July, since that's the first month into the new quarter. So, and that is automatically enrolled. So if you have any more questions around the process or don't know whether you're in the plan or not, please feel free to give me a call. I'll provide my contact information to your HR department. We are certainly here to help you in any way that we can. How can I say, if you have two options, you are automatically enrolled into the pre-tax option of the 401k, but it is important for you to be aware that there is a Roth option as well. The difference between the two, pre-tax is obviously self-explanatory. You put the money in before taxes, your money grows tax deferred, and then when you take your money out at that given point in time is when you actually get taxed on your balance. The Roth, on the other hand, you get taxed on it up front. So you do pay a little bit of taxes early, but then the earnings on that money that you contribute into the plan grows tax-free. That's the distinct difference between a Roth and a pre-tax, is that Roth, there is a portion of the money when you retire that actually is completely tax-free, as opposed to pre-tax, where everything is taxed, including the growth of your account over the course of several years. As far as the company match goes, the company does actually match your contributions. So we always try to target 6% of your pay is what we want to get you to. The reason being is that new Mather Metals will contribute 50% up to the 6 that you put in. So ultimately, if you put in 6, the company will do 3% for a total of 9%. That's a really good number to get started with to be able to help you reach your goals, so that you can retire and live the lifestyle that you want to live. Ultimately, we do want to try to get you up to about 10, 12, maybe even 15% all in. So 9 is a good start, but it's certainly not exactly where we probably would want you to be. As far as ownership of the money, anything that you put in is always yours, and that is what's called vesting. So if you were to retire or leave the company, your money follows you wherever you may go. The company money, there is a 5-year graded vesting schedule attached to that. So basically that means after you've been with the company for 5 years, that is at that point when you're entitled to take all the company money as well. Be assured though, if you retire or leave less than that 5-year period of time, there is a portion of that money that you would still be able to take back with you. Certainly talk to us about where you are if you are less than 5 years and planning on leaving the company, and we could talk to you about how much of the company money is in fact yours that you can take with you. So before we get into the series, I do want to just mention one more thing, and that's the platform that you're on. As you may be aware, Fidelity is the record keeper on the new Mather Metals 401k plan. Fidelity is one of the largest and top 5 providers in the country, with not only a very good brand name, but they do invest in technology. That is one of the strongest benefits that Fidelity has. If you have not done so yet, please take the opportunity to download the Fidelity app through your app store. It's important for you to know, however, that it's not Fidelity that you're actually looking for. You're actually looking for a product called Net Benefits. It's Fidelity owned and branded through Net Benefits. So when you look that up, just make sure that you're clicking on the right app to download. This app will allow you to view your accounts. It's usually everything is about 1 day delayed. So you can change anything that you would like to do. You can monitor your balances as well as your investment selections. So for example, if you are doing 6%, you meet with me and we talk and you say, hey, you know what, I can do 7. You can make those changes right on your phone and everything will integrate into the systems with the HR team at New Mather Metals. So please, if you haven't had the opportunity, you will find that this is a very user-friendly app and you will be able to make any changes that you like through this application, including investments. So if you do decide that you want to change where you're invested, you can do that very easily through the app as well. All right, so let's get into the series a little bit. This will only take about 10-15 minutes total. And we really want to start off by talking about budgeting. Budgeting it seems very simple. It's very easy to be able to put this on paper. The problem with budgeting is actually trying to stay with the plan. It's very hard to execute sometimes when we start getting into the day-to-day functions of our life. So what you want to do in the first part is and this is the more simple part, is you want to be able to document how much money you have coming in. So the amount of money obviously is going to be your paychecks per month. If you are trying to do this as a household, then you would obviously want to include any other paychecks that are coming in, whether it's through another second job or another source of income that you might have, as well as spouses and significant others. Anything that you feel like that everyone is contributing to the monthly expenses, you want to be able to account for the monthly income as well. These will vary from month to month, but I think the best thing to do is it's very easy to write down the things that you know that are static. So your mortgage, your car payments, your insurance, your utilities, including cable if you have that. So those are very simple, and obviously those stay the same. One thing you might want to do is do this over the course of not just 1, but maybe 2 months. Make sure you capture some of the other expenses that you really may not necessarily be aware of and know exactly how much that money is. So for example, food and gas are 2 variable amounts. It changes from month to month. So you might want to do this practice for 2 consecutive months to see how much of a deviation you have between those 2 types of expenses. Other expenses that you might incur could be entertainment, whether you go to the movies, sporting events, things like that. And that can change from month to month as well. We want to try to get this as close as we can, as it will make a significant difference with your budgeting. And ultimately what we're trying to do is figure out if there's any money to save so that you can ultimately get to the point where you want to do with your saving goals. So at the end of the day, once you have all of that down, what you have left, obviously, is what you have left to save. So you'll find that the biggest controllable expense when you go through this exercise, and the largest expense outside of your mortgage, is going to be your food costs. It's pretty striking when you start looking at how much money you spend on food, especially if you have kids. But you'll find that that's probably one of the more movable objects that we can control here in this process. But there could be other things too that you're going through. Obviously, it's all dictated based off of your own personal situation. Okay, let's talk a little bit about debt and the difference between good debt and bad debt. So good debt is usually interpreted in a way to where it's something that's you're going to get a return on the investment if you do end up having to finance it. So for example, the most obvious is a home. So when you purchase a home and you have a mortgage payment, at some point down the road, provided that you keep it well maintained, you will be able to resell that house and recoup some of the investment that you actually made payments on. Now, that's a good thing to a certain extent, but obviously if you're making minimum payments and you're financing for 30 years, it's a pretty substantial amount of money that you're spending still in mortgage interest rates and amounts. The other example of good debt would be something like education. So when you are financing your education, you're doing that because you're expecting to get a return for getting that diploma or that degree. so you can apply that to the workforce. So we do consider that good debt as well. Again, just because we're considering that good debt doesn't necessarily mean you should go into debt to manage these expenses. So if at all possible, even if you have to finance, whether it's a home or schooling or whatever it is, you really want to make sure that you try to pay that debt off as quickly as you can. So on the other side, we've got a few examples of bad debt. I think the two of the most obvious, I think that we always talk about more than anything, is credit card debt and automobile or car loans. So credit card debt, obviously, with the expenses, the interest rates are probably in the mid to high 20% sometimes. That is something that you will end up paying 3 to 5 times more than what you paid for something on a credit card. So that's considered bad debt. We want to make sure that we control that and ultimately eliminate that before we get to the good debt side. Automobiles is another one. This is something everyone has heard before. Obviously, as soon as you buy a brand new car and you pull it off of the car lot, it immediately depreciates. It's very difficult to recuperate any of your investment that you put into a car because of the depreciation factor. And then if you attach paying interest on a car loan on top of it, it's almost a no-win situation. So those are examples. Obviously, what we want to try to do is minimize your credit card debt as much as possible. And if you can, swallow not buying a brand new car, buying something used, or at least getting something that where you're not paying any interest on, a car loan, that is ideal when it comes to debt management. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how we reduce debt. We're going to use two analogies here. There's a debt snowball, and we're going to use debt avalanche. So what you want to do in this exercise is you want to be able to list all your debts out. So typically your credit cards is a perfect example. You may have a Target card. I'm just going to use some examples. You could have a grocery card such as Kroger. You may have Lowe's or Home Depot. And then obviously just your regular credit cards as well. So what you want to do is you want to list those out. And the problem that a lot of people have right now is that we are making minimum payments on all of them. But what you want to do is you actually want to be able to make minimum payments on all of them, but you want to choose one that you're going to absolutely focus on getting rid of. So you can really do two different things. So one is the snowball strategy, which on the one side, it talks about making sure that you pay the smallest debt amount first. So if your smallest credit card balance is $500 and the rest of your credit card balance is over $1,000, make your minimum payments on all those credit cards at over $1,000, and then do whatever you can to eliminate the debt of your smallest credit card of $500, for example. What this does is that it gives you a sense of accomplishment because you're going to be able to pay that credit card off relatively quickly. You're certainly going to pay it off more quickly than the other cards with the larger balance. And once you get that paid off, then you take that money that you were using and then you go to the next one in line. That's the next lowest credit card balance. The reason we do that is that it's a sense of accomplishment whenever you pay a credit card off in that way. And then you feel like that you're making progress. And ultimately you get to the point where it snowballs, which is why we call it the snowball strategy. You take whatever you just used to pay off one, and then you take that and you apply it to the next one, and it just keeps building that way. The avalanche strategy is a little bit of a different thought process. It's really taking just the opposite. So in a way, so look at your credit cards that you have and look at which one you have that has the highest interest rate. So if you see something that has a 28, 29, almost 30% interest rate, regardless of what that balance is, you know that you are spending and are ultimately paying more money than you are any other of the debt that you have. So you want to focus on that particular balance first and then start doing the same thing. Make your minimums on all your other debt and make sure that you're paying as much as you possibly can on your highest interest card in the process. Same thing there. The biggest benefit with the avalanche strategy, if you will, is that this is going to save you more money over time, just because obviously you're reducing the highest interest rate balance first, and it'll actually eliminate this debt in a little bit more of a quicker way, as opposed to the snowball strategy. So it doesn't matter which one you go, you're making progress in either approach. But it's just, you know yourself, you know what motivates you. So if you like to eliminate your numbers first, then go with a snowball. If you're really trying to eliminate the amount of money that you're paying, obviously the highest account balance with the highest interest rate is going to be your priority there. All right, so let's talk about some rules of thumb here. So these are some things that are very interesting that I think it requires you to think about a little bit where you are today, or especially if you're planning on buying a home, for example. So housing costs, what's the right mortgage payment for you? But at the end of the day, we feel like that housing costs should be no more than 28% of your gross income. So as an example, and I'm just using this out for simple math, if you're making, we'll say 48,000, that's $48,000 a year. So that's going to be about what, 2,000, 4,000 a month. You don't 4,000 a month. You don't want to pay more than, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of what that is. 28% of $4,000 a month, and that's gross. I should already have this number down already. Let's see here. So that ends up being around $1,100 a month in mortgage costs. So again, that's 48,000 a year. You shouldn't be spending more than 1,100 a month for a mortgage. Now again, if it's just you, normally there's dual incomes or multiple incomes in a household. You can obviously do the math, but this is gross income. So you would want to add whatever it is that you bring in, as well as whatever else is coming in from the other people in the household. Add those up and then multiply that out times 28%. And your mortgage should not be more than that. So that's just a real quick math situation, but I just really wanted to make sure that you had a good understanding of how that works. Now, if it's over that, obviously that means that you don't have much room to be able to spend money on other things, more than likely, after you start deducting out your expenses for utilities and your other monthly bills as well. So as far as debt payments, so this is the next step. So once we kind of get our head wrapped around how much we need to be paying for a mortgage and what we're paying for a mortgage, then it's trying to figure out what's left and where you should be. So debt payments should not be more than 36% of your gross income total. So we already know that no more than 28% should be your mortgage. So that really only leaves you about 8 to 10% that's left to spend on other things such as your car, your insurance, things like that. In an example of 48,000, that difference is only going to end up being about $400 left that you have to be able to spend on other things that's debt related. So I think it's very important to understand that everything really starts with your mortgage. And once you figure out what your percent is of your mortgage, then the difference is the 36% all in. Now, I think you got to remember that's including credit cards, all these other things too, that we're trying to eliminate and reduce over time. If your overall debt payments is over 36% of your overall gross income, then that's where creating a budget is going to help, so that we can get you down to that 36% number or lower, ultimately, is what we want to target. All right, so as far as what we've gone through with the coronavirus, it's been very difficult and obviously very stressful. I think a lot of us have encountered a situation where it's like, oh, geez, I should have had more money in the bank, at least as an emergency savings. We do realize that the majority of Americans as a whole they don't have enough money to be able to fix a car if something were to go wrong with it, whether it's an alternator or a starter, or needing a new battery, or even new tires. And a lot of people have to finance that. So things happen unexpectedly all the time. That's why we really want to try to shoot for 3 to 6 months of expenses of emergency savings. The reason 3 to 6 months is the target is because normally you want to be able to project out the possibility of it taking that long for you to find another job if you were to lose your current job today. So that's why we're thinking 3 to 6. Normally within 3 months, I think most people can, especially now, well, we'll see how it goes after the coronavirus, but here in the past, most people have been able to find employment within 3 months of not being employed. So I think 3 months will work, but if you feel a little bit more uneasy about that, obviously we would encourage you to get to the 6 months piece as well. The big question comes up as far as, gosh, what's more important, paying off debt, creating this emergency expense account, or doing 401k? And honestly, the main thing you have to focus on is take advantage of free money. So when you have a company that's offering you free money, such as New Mather Metals is, you want to take advantage of that because that's compensation. So you want to make that a priority. At that given point in time, you really want to be able to do both when it comes to building a 3-month expense emergency savings account, as well as paying off your debt. And we'll talk about how to split that up to be able to accomplish both over the course of a short 6 to 12 months. All right. At a minimum, you should be saving, this is an ultimate goal. Once you get your debt paid off and you get yourself in a situation where you have a little bit more discretionary income, we really want to get you up to about 10% of your income savings. Again, if you get yourself up to 10% in 401k, remember the company is going to put in 3%. So that's going to be a total of 13% that's going to go into your retirement savings account. That's really an ideal target. We typically want to try to get you between 12 and 15%. All right, so let's talk a little bit about tools and resources. These are tools that we use with our employees, as well as the people that we meet with other companies throughout the country. If you have not heard of or aware of Mint.com, Mint.com is a great tool that you can actually download, and it will actually synchronize with your checking or savings account. And as you're using your debit card for expenses, for example, if you go to Kroger and you use your card there, it'll categorize that as grocery expenses, and it'll put that together. Every time you go to groceries or go to Kroger, it'll categorize that for you. It'll do the same thing if you're going to a gas station or if you're going to a restaurant. So we talked about earlier about creating a budget, and the most difficult item to be able to really nail down is your discretionary expenses. Mint.com will do that, and it'll categorize all of your restaurant expenses all together. All your gas all together. So that way, whenever you look at this at the end of the month, it'll really help you with your budget creation. Again, it's Mint, M-I-N-T, as in the US Mint.com. And it's very beneficial. I encourage you to download that and get that to synchronize with your checking account. All right, for student loans, if any of you guys still have student loans, student loan debt is probably the biggest debt crisis that we have outside of a mortgage and cars. But Bankrate Student Loan Calculator is very handy. It will give you an idea of how much you can make a payment on per month to pay your loan off in X amount of years. So you can actually model your loan out. If you want to, if you got a $5,000 loan in this example, and you want to pay it off in 5 years, then you can model that out as well as a percentage to let you know how long and what your monthly payment can be in order to pay it off in X amount of years. So certainly your student loans, I haven't talked about that much, but your student loans really should be addressed as importantly as your card debt, as well as credit card debt as well. It's a loan that you really have to take seriously and try to get paid off as well. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to go back to the Fidelity app. There are a lot of tools out there, and I have this Net Benefits smartphone app that I am encouraging you to download. If you have a computer and you have the ability to go onto the Fidelity website and do the same login as you would if you were on the app, the Fidelity website will help you model several different scenarios to help you save along the way. They have a little car, and it kind of shows you your journey throughout the course of being able to save for retirement. There are other tools there as well that can help you manage your debt as well. So I encourage you to go onto the Fidelity website. Again, punch in the same information that you typically would in your app and see what that can help you out as well. I think with the Mint.com, the student loan app or the applications you have, as well as the Fidelity tools that are available through your 401k plan, it is certainly enough to get you started with getting a budget started and ultimately get you to the point where you can execute on paying down your debt. All right. Well, that's everything that we had. I do think that it's enough for this point. What we're going to do is we're going to build on this information the next series down the road. So we would love to be able to make that in person. We'll see how things go with the pandemic, and if we have the ability to come out in person and talk to you guys, and then be able to stick around and do some one-on-ones, that would be great. If you have any questions, there is an email address that you can send any questions to. It's 401k@argy.net. Please feel free to forward any of your information if you would. Again, my name is Jeff Graff. You can just type, say, hey, I want to get this to Jeff, and it'll come directly to me. Or you can call the telephone number at 855-322-4015, and there would be somebody there as well, and that can be forwarded to me as well. But any advisor can help you with any of your questions. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. I'm looking forward to meeting you here in the very near future, and make it a good day. Thank you.